How to lead when you don't know what to do. That's what we're going to answer in this video. Let's get started. The leadership traits that I'm going to be mentioning in this video, I've taken from my research the 30 principles of first-time leadership. If you want to know what are the 30 principles, there's a link in the description below. Just click on it. Imagine this. You are a first-time leader of your own team, and they have come to you with a situation. You realize that you don't have an answer to this situation, but your team is still expecting you to lead. So how are you going to lead when you don't have an answer? I'm going to share with you some of the leadership traits that you are going to need to employ in order to successfully answer this question. You may not have an answer, but your team might. Very often, getting your team involved in trying to address the situation on hand when you don't have an answer is very much a possible approach. You see, the collective experiences and perspectives of your team and the people around you is more likely to come out with a more complete solution than one that you may be able to do on your own. When you get your team involved, let them brainstorm, come up with different ideas, and then evaluate those ideas so that then they can eventually agree on a solution that they want to take in order to move forward. Your job as the leader is to support and guide them along the way throughout the entire process, from brainstorming, evaluation, to finally agreement on a path to move on. It's actually really unrealistic for you to expect to have all the answers to every single situation that you come across, even if you think that as a first-time leader you should. This is more so if you work in high-skilled or knowledge jobs where every single team member that you have is actually an expert in their own area of work. It can actually be a good thing when you admit to your team that you don't have the answers, because what this does is that it opens the door for your team to get involved in coming up with a collective solution. It also then allows you to tap into their expertise, their perspectives, and their knowledge in order to come up with that more complete solution. And like I said previously, your role as the first-time leader is to guide and support them through that process into coming up with a solution and taking action. One thing that I'll add is that the whole idea of fake it until you make it is going to be counterproductive. Because if you're trying to fake it, then you're going to do all sorts of things in order to maintain that image. Admitting to your team that you don't have an answer and then getting them involved is actually going to increase the trust and respect that they have for you in most cases, because then you are there working with them to come up with that collective solution. When you don't have an answer and you go find out, you are signaling to your team that you are still continuing to serve them as the leader. You create an expectation and eventually a culture where it's alright for you as a team leader to not have the answer as long as you go find out. And in turn, your team members will now know that even if you don't know, you will continue to serve them the best you can. So you see, when there are situations where you have to go find the answer for your team, then that's what you have to do. The same expectation applies for your team as well. When there are situations that your team member is expected to be able to resolve, then they have to go find the answer for themselves. There's a saying that goes something like this: give a man a fish and he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish and he eats for his lifetime. The problem with you trying to have all the answers to every single problem that your team is going to face is that you end up teaching your team to be dependent on you. And that means that when you solve one problem and the next problem comes up, they are going to come back to you. Now, that's not an issue if that is your master plan, but really it's going to take up a lot of your time and energy, which you as the leader can be putting into other more important areas. Which is why when you don't have an answer to a situation, it's actually a fantastic opportunity to get your team involved, so that they can start to think like leaders themselves and to go find out a solution to the challenges or to the problem or the situation at hand. First, what that does is that it conditions your team and it makes them accept that as a leader, you don't necessarily have all the answers. Second, your team members will be trained and developed over time to go find out their own solution first, or to go approach others to collaborate before going to you. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that you're just going to be sitting back with your legs on the table and not doing anything. You're still going to get involved. But when it comes to developing your team members to be more like leaders, thinking for themselves, looking at the situation and going to find out how to resolve it, here are some very quick and easy prompting questions that you can ask to get your team to think harder and differently. Has anyone encountered this problem before? How was it solved? What resources do you need to come up with a solution? Can you make do with what is currently available? So adding on to what I said earlier about developing your team and getting them to think about a solution to a situation that they are facing, one of the areas that you want to encourage is curiosity in your team, because curiosity promotes learning. When your team doesn't have an answer to a problem at hand, encourage them to be curious, to want to learn more about what they're facing. Statements such as, "Let me go find out," is going to be something that will help promote curiosity and that subsequent learning within your team. And a solution isn't just about coming out with the actions. It's also about researching and understanding the problem at hand before coming out with the appropriate actions and then implementing them. When you encourage curiosity, you shift the focus from you as a team leader being the owner of knowledge and information to your team building up their capabilities and their own knowledge. When you don't have an answer to a situation or to a problem that your team faces, one of the best ways is to collaborate with the expertise that already exists within your team. Work together with your team members, leverage on their perspectives, their expertise, and their experiences to come out with a collective solution to the problem at hand. During the moments when it is their responsibility to come up with solutions and to take actions, make it known to them that they should be readily working with others in order to implement those solutions and to come up with them in the first place. And so when you walk the talk and you are doing that yourself, you then set the same expectations for everyone else in your team. If you enjoyed this video so far, really appreciate if you give me the thumbs up. It helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And if you have yet to subscribe to First Time Leadership, do click on that subscribe button to be notified of when new videos come out to help you with your leadership journey. And lastly, if you have any comments about what I've shared in this video, do share a comment below.